here's the other thing.
Okay.
Is that I was like, I have no idea what Chase's last name is. He's like Cher of the library. I was just like, Chase, IT guy, Chase.
Just Chase, the
it's
IT
just
guy.
Chase. It's DeVrou, right?
It's actually DeVrou.
DeVrou?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
In the Marine Corps, people would just call me DeVrou, but they knew it was DeVrou. Z or
That's
Sergeant
adorable.
Z would always say
Sergeant Z.
DeVrou.
DeVrou. DeVrou. Okay,
DeVrou, yes.
okay. All right, I got it.
Kind of that lower.
Welcome to In the Act, a radio program on process and the creative life. Creativity does not just start and stop with artists. We all make aesthetic or guiding decisions. Our aim is to talk through the process and investigate how we choose to express ourselves and to live creatively. We're connecting with people about their lives. That's the subject of our show. Broadcasting from Mead Public Library in Sheboygan, Wisconsin on Mead Community Radio. I am Erica Hunsinger, and this is In the Act. And today's guest on In the Act is Chase DeVrou.
You nailed it.
I got it.
First try.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. I didn't, okay, so when we were talking just before this happened, I didn't realize you were a PK.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We got 3 PK in here.
Are you serious, John?
Yeah.
I didn't know either of you were pastors.
Yeah, totally.
That is crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm not UCC.
Yeah.
No. I don't know how much we'll share in common on that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we want to explore that.
It's fine. It's so funny, though. I just think that I was like, oh, my gosh, talking about sermons. We've talked about sermons. His dad wrote a book, gave it to me to have my dad read it. And then,
Sure.
it was just really funny. And that's how we found out. I don't know.
So you're both
Interesting
UCC
stuff.
pastors? Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I maybe could have guessed you were a pastor's kid. Not John. John, that's unexpected, man. Interesting.
It's really interesting. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, if we could maybe start there, creatively, I think it's really interesting because, I grew up with a father who was writing all the time and visiting
sure.
people and relationships and, so that must have been what you were around too.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, I don't know. It's weird when I think back to it because my dad was a youth pastor when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so, he's got to come up with new games and stuff like that to play with.
Oh, yeah, totally.
With the youth and new ways to engage them, and
Cool.
stuff like that. But my dad loves the outdoors. And so growing up, that was a focus,
Yeah.
But when I was just going into middle school, he was going to seminary to get his, what do you call it, master's in theology and become an ordained
Sure.
pastor.
Yep.
And so he was studying a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not like I didn't see him. It's just,
Yeah, same experience. Yeah, my dad was I just remember doing homework at the dining room table with them or the kitchen table with them.
Yeah.
He's pretty much sure he had Pall Mall unfiltered cigarettes and a glass of whiskey and he's sipping
hilarious.
and writing his sermons and doing
That's
homework
so
and I'm
funny.
doing homework.
So he's smoking a cigarette and drinking whiskey while
Yeah.
writing a sermon. That is so funny.
And doing homework and stuff.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
it was the 70s,
That cracks
so
me up. I can't picture my dad. My dad never smoked, but that is such a hilarious picture. Just,
I know, a riot.
yeah.
I know. I know. Yeah, anyway.
Jesus said, take care of your body.
Right? Yeah.
Do not drink in excess.
I know.
That's great. That's
That's
amazing.
funny.
That's fantastic.
But I mean, again, I know that the outside has been really important to you too. And you getting out and that when you start talking about being outside or going outside, you just kind of light up. And
Yeah. I do.
look forward to that. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that because it sounds like the origins are with your father in that.
Yeah. So my road to enjoying the outdoors, definitely my dad kind of opened that up, and I always loved playing outside as a kid.
Yeah.
And climbing trees, as my family likes to poke fun at me for. But then, as an adult, I didn't really have much opportunity when I was in the Marine Corps to do a lot of. I mean, I was outside a lot, but not for fun.
Right. Yeah.
And then there were some really beautiful locations that we were at.
Can you talk?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, and have you been to California?
Yeah.
So the coastline, and there's like a house every foot on the coastline.
Yeah.
You hit Camp Pendleton, no houses.
Wow.
Right? And it's like, I don't know, let's say 30 to 40 miles of no houses along the beach.
Wow.
Which is just weird, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as Camp Pendleton ends, boom, houses, right?
Yeah.
So we did a field op, which is like a training exercise right on the beach. Wow. So my tent's on the beach along the California coastline, and there's a radio antenna up the hill, and you can hear the highway like half a mile back.
Sure.
So you're kind of escaped from the highway. Basically, I'm on a private beach. I'm camping.
Totally.
I'm camping, on the beach. That was one of the coolest. We did another field op that was just up from the beach. But definitely that beach operation was one of the coolest. Like getting up in the morning and
right
just
on
seeing
the ocean.
Sun. I guess the sun would sun rises in the east. Thank you. So the sun would set.
Yeah.
And oh man, that was amazing. That was
wow.
That was one of the coolest. Field ops were always fun too because it was like, you have to support more people than in this building, and you have to set up all the equipment you had in like a day,
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of pre-configured a lot of it, but there was always something that would go wrong,
Because you were IT there too,
mm-hmm.
right? So that was like, okay, yeah,
yep.
Wow.
So like computers, networking equipment, we would shoot a internet connection up to satellite. And it was kind of funny because you're creating a connection to a satellite, but then that satellite connection routes and then beams back down to kind of your base, which is only like 20 miles from you.
Wow.
It's just kind of funny that you shoot, but you have to do it as if you were on deployment or on a ship.
Oh, sure.
So they want you to do it as if you weren't just 20 miles away from
of course.
The destination,
yeah.
But it was
which
kind
is
of
a lot of creative thinking going on there.
A lot of interesting situations do happen.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of 20-year-olds shooting satellite beams into the sky, Oh, yeah. Was it Woolsey knocked out? He so there's the transmit, and you have to set your transmit power. Okay. And you can set your transmit power, if you're negligent, you can set it up really hot. And it scans the sky, so you're not supposed to transmit when you're scanning. You're just kind of listening. And so you scan the sky to find the satellite that you're supposed to be cued in on. Well, one of the key parts of that is to not connect the transmitter. Right? Otherwise, you're beaming up into the sky and you're just panning the sky. So if there's other satellites up there, let's say like Fox News, for example, or CNN, if there's satellites up there and they're using that to transmit footage from a different country. Yeah. Right? You beaming across the sky, you're knocking out, you're overpowering all those signals.
Wow.
So Woolsey was scanning for a satellite with the transmitter connected. So he was just beaming. Yeah, he got in a lot of trouble for that.
I bet he did.
Yeah, that was really funny to me. But
totally.
I mean, I was glad I wasn't in charge of him at the time, But, yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How long were those little deployments on the beach?
This little field ops and stuff
or
like that?
Or the field ops,
yeah. They would vary. They could be 3 days, a week.
Oh, okay.
Maybe probably the shortest was 2 days, where it's quick setup. You go for the night, and then but rarely, most of the time it was 3 days to a week. The longest one I did was a month. That was my favorite field op, ironically, even though it was a month long. It was amazing.
How come?
You did everything.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that one, it was just very memorable because I got to prove, all my skill sets in one, everything that I did in the Marine Corps from a technical perspective, I did on that field op. So it was just like, it was cool.
Whoa, that was like a big pat on your back kind of thing?
It was,
That's
yeah.
cool.
It felt really good to go out there and and it was one of my first field ops where I was really like in charge. I had a boss.
Yeah.
But, if you have like a manager or like your kind of overseer, they're just making sure that everything is getting set up and working.
Yeah.
But in my experience, they're not doing the setup.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like I had more technical knowledge than the person in charge of me.
Of course. Yeah.
So, he was just kind of, how's it going today, DeVrou? And I'd be like, it's going great. Everything's still working.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
That was a good time. My wife did not like it very much because I was gone for a month.
It's a long time.
And then 3 months later, I deployed. So it was like a month, and then I'm back, and then I deploy,
Wow.
So.
Where did you get deployed to?
Afghanistan. That was my second deployment. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2010 and 2012.
Wow. Mm-hmm. For 6 months or a year?
Oh, yeah, about 7 months. My second deployment was, I went out there early and then left late because it just kind of worked out that way. Because I was in charge of the, I was the help desk guy in charge of the help desk. So I had to go out there and transition there was like a reservist unit. I had to go out there and kind of transition from that. And
wow. That's a lot of pressure.
It was. Nice part was my first deployment, I worked the same help desk, but I was like the grunt, I'll say.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I was pretty familiar with everything. And then when I went out there again, I got to see how it got all screwed up, since I left.
Right. Yeah, that's always fun.
Like, why did you do that? And, the unit that I changed over with was a reservist unit. And it's not like there's anything wrong with being a reservist. It's just the attitude and the way that you think about things is just a little bit different,
Sure.
And so, things worked. It's not like things weren't working when I showed up, but maybe they could have worked better.
Yeah.
But, and then, I spent 4 months fixing it and then 2 months taking it down, basically, because we were downsizing operations and transitioning out of the building. So,
wow.
Yeah, because I think that's when President Obama wanted to kind of descale operations in Afghanistan. So,
right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Like I think the layperson doesn't really have any sort of perspective on what it's like to be within that situation, and like even just the nuances of like what do you do in your free time? Like do you read? Do you like I don't even know, research or
That's a good.
What did you do for play?
For fun? Went to the gym. Best shape of my life by the end of that second deployment. Oh yeah, yeah. My wife brings that up every once in a while. Like, hey, you gonna? I'm like, I gotta deploy again if you want me to look like that again. Yeah, that was. Yeah. And then hanging out with the guys.
Yeah.
Playing video games.
Cool.
I brought my. I think I brought my Xbox and my computer out there.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you can fit in your sea bag, and I made sacrifices.
Nice. To fit those in? Yeah. That's excellent.
I think I wrapped, one thing on my first deployment that Checky did, was just somebody that I deployed with. He stuffed what kind of mattress cover? Like a mattress cover.
Yeah.
Like a memory foam mattress cover.
Sure.
So I wrapped my computer and Xbox in a mattress cover that I stuffed. I sacrificed clothes for that, but it was so worth it.
Wow.
That mattress cover was a game changer.
I bet it was. That's so great. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
And talking about like being outside too, like tying that back in, like the radical difference of like thinking about you on the beach on the coast in California, having, tenting, or that's not what it's called.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
That's okay. And then seeing like the landscape in Afghanistan.
Well, in the middle of the desert at that. Because northern Afghanistan is, I've heard, is beautiful, and I've seen pictures, and it looks amazing.
Gotcha.
Where
but
I
not where you
was
were.
Not, it was pretty, it was very strange, because you think, it's sandy.
Yeah.
It's more like it's more powdery. That's how I describe it. It's not like
Interesting.
sand. It's like it's like dusty.
Wow.
And powdery.
Yeah.
Like you step in like what you assume is going to be like kind of coarse sand, like on the beach here at Lake Michigan.
Sure.
And there, it's just your foot kind of like disappears in this dust. It was very strange the first time.
Wow. Gosh, even the land under your feet. Like, it's so interesting because I think of you because when we've talked like about you going into the woods and having like different experiences, all these, and the idea of your foot sinking into the sand like that is really kind of blows your mind.
And it's not heavy. You just pull your foot right back out.
Oh, fascinating.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird.
Wow.
And if it gets muddy and then hardens, it doesn't really harden. It just turns back into dust.
Fascinating.
It's super strange.
So wild.
I much prefer like trout streams and, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super good. I don't need to go back to Afghanistan.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure. Or like, so if you could like say your favorite place to go to, not favorite place to go to, but like you said, Wisconsin, like trout streams.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So there's like the driftless area of Wisconsin.
Okay, which is the western part?
Western part, yep. John's familiar
Southwest?
with it.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it goes up. It doesn't quite go all the way up to Duluth. That would be too far north for driftless. It probably ends right around Eau Claire.
Okay. Yeah.
Right around there. There's somebody out there who's like, oh, technically it's this town.
Right.
It's somewhere around there.
In there, yeah.
And the driftless area of Wisconsin is actually really fascinating. I read a book. Oh, man, I can't remember the guy's name. I read some random book on it because I wanted to get interested in it.
Yeah.
I grew up on a boat. I don't like boats. I don't like any motorboats.
Oh.
I don't enjoy it. I feel like it is the worst way to experience a lake.
Because?
The best part about being outside is the complete like transition from you're like free. And I don't feel free when I'm in a motorboat. When I have the engine running and it's like that constant, I feel like going to sleep.
It's that buzz that like anxious.
Yeah, and it's just like there's enough
you.
noise going on. We have enough noise in the real world, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But out there, it's like turn off all the noise and suddenly you hear the birds, the wind blowing over the water, the leaves, ruffling. And it's honestly, if you haven't experienced it, it's probably a little. I often find that, like, let's say last year I went to Canada, right? I did a Canada trip last year, and the first day was like stressful and anxious because it's like you're so used to, your daily vices, your phone and kind of because it's so foreign. Hearing just nature is like confusing to your senses for the first little bit.
Oh, I bet.
And then when you settle in, it's like the most relaxing thing. Super chill. It's hard to get up in the morning in a way,
You don't wake up with the sun.
I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
My best time of the day is like 11 to, 11 o'clock. So after 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we're good.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Which isn't the best, if your goal on a trip is to go fishing.
Oh, because you want to get up early to get.
Technically, you want to get up early.
That's right.
Yeah, but on my Canada trip, I was just like, I would love to catch some nice fish, but I'd also love to enjoy my mornings, and I chose to enjoy my mornings.
So. Oh, that's great because that's technically the point of the trip is to go fishing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I slept. I just woke up when I got up when I woke up every morning, and it was. I would do that 100% again.
That's awesome.
My dad caught way more fish than I did because he got up early.
right.
Good for him.
Yeah, totally right. Yeah.
Like, we both enjoyed our trip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't understand sometimes when people go outside and then bring music. I mean, I know. I love music too.
I love my sister to death.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Say
love her. Brooke, I love you. Please turn your music off when we're outside. It's just, but I mean, she loves music. Music is like her thing. So I understand it. But
I know. I get it.
if we're camping and there's music on, yeah, that's like my trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're missing like the pine sway. Like I swear you can hear like just the snap of a twig or
The
just
music of nature.
Oh, yeah, the music of nature. Good one. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not only beautiful, but I love that there isn't a pattern necessarily all the time.
Oh,
like
yeah.
there's some things that are patterned, right? Like the sound of waves is a pattern, right? But when there's wind blowing through trees, you don't know like what exactly is going to happen.
Yep.
And I love the mystery of what's going to happen next. What bird is going to call?
What are you going to find?
What are you going to find? Yeah.
Ooh, I got a story.
Oh yeah, do it.
Okay. So,
Sorry.
So I love watching, there's a YouTuber, Lost Lakes. I recommend, if you've never gone canoeing, just watch one of this guy's videos.
Okay.
Lost Lakes on YouTube.
Lost Lakes.
His name is John. His wife is Erin. Just incredible. The guy understands what's beautiful about canoeing. And
Cool.
It's just, my heart leaps every time he posts a new video. I'm like, yes,
Cool.
I get to just experience that. I mean, he really understands it. And he went on. So I did that Canada trip. Now we followed one of his routes
On a canoe.
on a canoe.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So we did the route that he did, basically.
Wow. Cool.
And he on his trip had found we'll say like a waterfall or whatever.
Yeah.
He was canoeing around a lake, and he heard it. Couldn't see it from the lake, but he could hear the like shh through the trees. And it's kind of loud if you're.
Yeah.
It's different. It doesn't sound like a tree, And he's like, huh. And he sees the little bit of water kind of coming out as he gets closer. So he gets out of the canoe and goes and explores it, and that was something I wanted to find, right, on our trip. Because he didn't even say, he kind of gave you a general idea of where that was.
Yeah.
So we go on the trip and we find it. And me and my brother get out and we go and walk, and it's like, because it's so rocky in that kind of area, that north of Lake Superior, that it's kind of flowing down this kind of rock face, we'll say.
Sure.
You could climb up it, but it was really fun to explore. The water was like weirdly warm. We were there in, when was it? End of May.
Wow.
And the water was like warm. It was strange.
That's
We
weird.
figured out why later.
Okay.
But the water was like warmer, and so I'm like rinse my face and my hair, because we went there in the end of May, so ice was out 2 weeks before this. So typically the water is very cold.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And we get to the top, and it's a whole valley that's completely drained out because the top of that waterfall was a beaver dam.
Oh my gosh.
But the beaver dam gave way.
Yeah.
A couple, we'll say, a week or two ago, probably had ice out, too much
Right.
pressure.
Yeah.
The beaver dam gave out, and the whole valley was drained out.
Wow.
Super cool. We found like a hidden canoe up there where people will go probably moose hunting.
Oh my gosh.
Some Canadians.
Wow.
That was the valley they went moose hunting, and we found moose tracks. We found
Wow.
a bunch of beaver huts. But the whole valley's drained out. So you go to the beaver hut, and you can it's like 6 feet high, and you can climb up on top of it.
Oh my gosh, how crazy.
Normally, it would look just like a pile of sticks on
the top of the surface of the water,
yeah,
right?
but in this case, it's totally drained out. You can look underneath it. It was.
Oh my gosh.
It was incredible. It was
how
super
incredible.
Cool.
I can't even imagine like looking underneath the beaver.
It was
That's
crazy.
so cool.
It was crazy. Yes. Yep. That was, man, I could go back there right now.
Cool. Welcome back. I'm Erica Hunsinger. We are here with Chase DeVrou
Crushed it.
on In the Act. Hey. And we're talking about the beaver houses, which I can't get out of my head because, I think of all of those like little like those overlay pages in books, where it shows the underneath or something.
sure,
I'm like,
yeah.
that's where the beaver pups were, and that's where they have their family, a little beaver den.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how cool to be able to see the cross section basically of
And how
like,
much
the
work
iceberg.
that was, to
Oh
put
my
together.
gosh, crazy!
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, just finding a beaver chew was super cool.
A beaver chew?
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe that's what my dad called it. Maybe that's
I
not
don't
what
know.
it's
I
called.
like it. I think we should go with it.
So
everybody.
they strip the bark off. I think they eat the bark. Pretty sure that's what they eat. So
Oh, yeah.
if you ever find a stick that's all like chewed up and all the bark stripped off of it, so they end up being very smooth typically.
Yeah.
And then the end is kind of pointed.
Yeah.
I think because they strip it off whatever branch they're taking it off of.
Okay.
And so you'll find like maybe it'll be 3, 4, 6 feet long, and it's all stripped of all of its bark because that's what the beaver's eating.
Wow.
And so it's really smooth. And so as a kid, my dad would go on a trip and then bring back a beaver chew, and it was like super cool.
That's so cool.
I was like, this is awesome. Anyway,
That's
on that
so
trip, there was
great.
so much of it. It was like kind of lost its coolness, but
It didn't really lose its coolness, did it? It didn't. It didn't.
Yeah, I mean, that was really cool though. Seeing
Yeah.
it all piled up like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how wild to be able to see that whole valley. Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how long was your trip for?
I think it was around 10 days.
Oh, that's long. That's
it was
good.
it was a good amount of time. We were ready to come back when we got back. For
Yeah.
sure.
Right.
Yep.
So you're bringing in everything to cook with, to eat,
Everything.
to everything.
Yep.
And then are you having to, I don't know what that's called, like what's that called when you carry your canoe across land?
in Canada it's portaging.
Oh, it is really
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's like the French way of saying it.
Okay.
And that makes sense with the Canadians would call it that.
Right.
My wife gets mad at me when I call it's a portage.
A portage. Okay.
Yeah, that's like Americanized.
Yeah.
Portage.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're portaging, then you're carrying that canoe over to the next section.
Okay.
And this trek we took was the path less traveled. We'll say it is. People will go along that path, and you can usually find where somebody has the portage. Normally you can find it, but man, pretty hidden often. It was a bit challenging to find where, because it was so. It's the path less traveled.
Yeah.
So,
and which is your preferred way of going places, right?
Maybe I'd prefer slightly more traveled.
Slightly more than that.
Just because there'd be
That's hard.
There'd be and we were going up a river, and so there'd be like a log jam. You got to go on. And so early in the trip, earlier in the first day of our actual going up the stream, it was like, oh, this isn't so bad. We ran into like 2 or 3 log jams.
Yeah.
And then on the latter half of the day, we discovered there's more log jams, and there were some sections that were pretty hard to get through.
Yeah.
We were really gassed, really tired.
I bet.
But man, our camping location at the end of that second day was, so there was kind of like a waterfall coming down, a rapidy area.
Yeah.
And it was probably 200 feet long of just rapids, little waterfalls. And we camped, we portaged that, and was probably the hardest portage we had to do. And then we camped on the upper part of a cliff above that waterfall rapids area at night. And we had a campfire. The campfire's on the rock, kind of like near the ledge. It's just
cool.
It was super cool.
Oh my gosh.
Was super cool.
And you have a map that you're going by too. So because you were taking
a vague map.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I watched John's video on it quite a few times, so I had a rough idea of where we were. And I did an elk hunt in 20. Was it 21 or 2020? One of those 2 years.
Yeah.
I did an elk hunt in Colorado, so I purchased a really nice GPS for that.
Oh, cool.
So I had a good GPS with me too, with emergency, emergency button on it.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Because an injury out there, you're like,
what do you do?
You
have to have
something.
like somebody fly in, right?
Maybe a helicopter lift out, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
But
and I think when we don't actually think about what it's like fully within that. And if you're doing that for 10 days, it's like morning, afternoon, daytime, evening, and night. And they're all like hugely different experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And to be in the middle of
nowhere,
listening to this and then having it just be super black, or depending on whether or not there's, what stage the moon is in, waxing, full,
Yeah,
or
I think it was a waning. I think it was waning. Yeah. So it was not. There's not a lot of moonlight at night. Yep.
Which, I mean, I don't know. Did you?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Because,
okay.
You could see the stars really well.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I bet.
that waning moon was nice. Yes.
Cool.
And we saw a little bit of northern lights, which was fun. They weren't that good. We were hoping for a strong northern lights, but you don't always get what you want, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the truth.
Yeah, that was. I would definitely go on that trip again, for
Cool.
sure. We saw 3 people the whole trip.
No way.
Yep.
In 10 days.
And one we saw on our way back. She was just canoeing upstream.
Wow.
Which, one by yourself is a bold move.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do. She was going to be there for like 2 weeks. I don't know if I could do 2 weeks by myself. Unless I had to work through something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like what trauma do I got to work through here?
Okay, good question though. I mean, you don't have to say anything personal, but is that something that is a good thing for you to do? Like, if you're trying to work through something, do you go, you know what, this vacation, I'm gonna kind of work through this, or do you like plan around it or something? Like, can you? Like, that's a really interesting thing.
Those kind of trips, in my opinion, because we're surrounded by. And again, this is kind of dependent on who you are.
Yeah, of course.
But for me, I have found, like, particularly like my elk hunt, I learned a lot about myself on that trip. Like, I heavily rely on, like, I shouldn't say heavily. I rely a lot on my books and stuff like that to kind of calm my nerves if I'm anxious or something like that,
Yeah.
And that trip, also, I eat so consistently that my body's so used to that dopamine schedule that when it gets messed up, I can get like weirdly emotional.
Interesting.
Purely like where I like super miss my family and I just want to go home.
Yeah.
I had a few moments of that like that on that trip, on the Canada trip. Definitely that first when we were up on that cliff, waterfall. Definitely, I was feeling it that night.
Wow.
I needed to eat, but that's something I didn't know. That is an aspect of my, I don't know what we call it, makeup or whatever. Yeah, that if I'm really feeling extremely emotional, I probably need to eat some food.
That's
just
great.
Get some carbs in there
to
just lift up that dopamine to kind of pull me out of that. I'll get like really depressed and sad.
Yeah.
Like
well, your body's telling you, hey, Chase.
Yes, and if I can't eat, it's not good.
Yeah.
So.
That's so interesting. I mean, it's nice. It's good that you were able to, that you can reflect on it, like, and go, this is my identification, and this is what it means and stuff. That's good.
Yeah,
that's
great.
There's
every trip that I do with either my dad or brothers and stuff like that, I always learn something new about myself.
I bet.
Or the people I'm with. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's interesting to go into the wilderness to learn more about yourself, that you do learn more about yourself and your relationships and have time to reflect on it.
Oh, we're so pampered.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I learned.
Yeah.
That's every time I go out, I'm like, I am so spoiled.
Yeah. Can you talk about that for a sec?
Well, people used to log out there and like bring logs back downriver.
Yeah.
Going up that river, and that I'm sure that river was used for logging at one point. Mm-hmm. Oh my word!
Yeah,
I'm in awe of men that would do that.
My grandfather did that.
That's insane.
It's insane.
And I think, I was in the Marine Corps, I'm tough.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. when I think about, oh man, I mean, and I think it would be sometimes hard to be humble and do that because, like, how I think sometimes when we do something great, or we work really hard, it's sometimes easy to look at other people that have their own challenges but don't necessarily haven't done what you did. And you're like, did you go out in the middle of the woods and survive for 50 days and then bring back 3,000 logs by yourself? You know what I mean? And you're complaining about this, and it's easy to, yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I didn't have to do that.
So there's I don't even know what that's called. I lose words. But that there's something really profound in being witness to, even historically in your head, of what profound work happened and experience.
And then just the challenges that they had to go through. I'm out there and I have what is it called? 1 peak meals.
Yeah.
I heat up some water and pour it in there. Boom, dinner.
Right.
And I got a pack with cold stuff in there. Those guys had to go out there, hunt for their own food while also logging all day. Yeah. Pulling those logs back to, wherever their base camp was. I don't know. It is mind blowing. Yeah. And I can go out there and do all that and just enjoy my time and all that, and I don't know. It definitely gives you perspective on your life.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And you're on these forestry roads. Once those kind of vehicles became prominent, then no more going down rivers.
Yeah,
but there's a side effect to everything. It's great that those forestry roads are there because you can get access to those really backwater locations. Yeah. But there's also forestry roads running through the middle of all that wood.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm glad Canada keeps them because it allows us to get access to those locations and stuff like that.
Sure.
Without being overly invasive in the area.
Right.
But nature will. If nature wants to get rid of the forestry road, it has no problem doing
Easy
that.
peasy.
Yeah. Give
me 10 years.
Yeah, and there are forestry roads that are just no longer exist, or man, they're still hard to traverse.
Oh yeah.
Our trailer broke on the way out there.
Back roads for sure. Still.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But that was I'd do it again in a minute.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Thanks for talking about that.
Oh, man.
Welcome back to In the Act. I'm Erica Hunsinger. We're here with Chase DeVrou. Thanks for being here, Chase.
No problem. Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to touch back on is you said something about when you're anxious that you rely on books too. Mm. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of your favorite books.
My favorite books. Oh, boy. That's a can right there. That's a can of worms, yes. Let's see. Years ago, I did not read at all. And then I got a job at a library, and I was like, maybe I'll try it. And then I read 60 books in my first year here.
Oh, my gosh, no way.
Yeah, I read, let's see.
Crazy.
Maybe some of those were rereads. I read Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss 8 times, and those are great books. I wouldn't recommend it because the third book is still not out, and it's been 12 years.
Oh my
So if you're listening to this, they're great books, but maybe there won't ever be an ending. Yeah, I don't know. Not sure. The author, yeah, there's problems there, but everybody has their challenges in life.
Why did you start reading? Can I go back to that question?
Oh, sure. Why did I start reading? I felt like maybe I was missing something, I'm trying to think what even got me into it. I think it was just I worked at a library and I was like, it makes sense that I read some books.
Right, okay.
And let's see. Funny enough, I think her name was Jean. Dale was the old IT guy here, and his wife had said, hey, there's this book called Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Why don't you read that? And I was like, I'll think about it, Yeah. And so I was looking at book recommendations online, and what would you call it? The Patrick Rothfuss books were really popular at the time, so I read those, and oh man, I was like, this is my jam. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is incredible. This character is super cool, doing magic stuff. It has kind of like the first book, there's a lot of like lore and stuff like that, and he's like a street urchin, and then he goes from street urchin to realizing like, hey, I'm actually like super smart from stuff that happened earlier in the book, so why don't I go to try to get into university? But he's dirt poor because he's a street urchin, but he kind of tricks his way into university of magic and artists, all this kind of cool stuff.
That's great.
And it just totally captured my imagination, and then
awesome.
Boom, and then I explored out from there. And probably my favorite books right now are Brandon Sanderson books. He's my favorite author. Brandon Sanderson.
Brandon Sanderson.
Brandon Sanderson, which I'm sure he's gotten so popular at this point that it feels a bit cliche to be like, oh, my favorite books are by this extremely, prolific and popular author. So I feel kind of like I don't have a diamond in the rough. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I do have a diamond in the rough book.
Nice.
But as far as like favorite author, it'd be Brandon Sanderson. And
that series, it's a series too, right?
So he has like the overall. So you only have like your Marvel universe.
Yeah.
So his series has a universe called the Kashmir.
Okay.
And there's a lot of books that happen in the Kashmir, maybe on a different planet with different type of magic,
cool.
But the essence of a lot of the magic is the same, like it. There's like 3 realms: the physical realm, the spiritual realm, and the cognitive realm, and they...
That's awesome.
Yeah, we really don't know much about the spiritual realm, but anyways, I could do a whole... Yeah. I'm trying to get Carol to read these books so we can do a podcast.
Come on, Carol.
Just talking about the Kashmir, but, I probably could have my brother over here and we could talk for 4 hours about it.
I bet.
But
you have a diamond in the rough.
Diamond in the rough.
Okay.
The Sword of Kaigan.
Okay.
I actually cannot remember the author's name.
Okay.
Forgive me for that. The Sword of Kaigan is a self-published book, which usually, it's becoming less of a kind of a cringe thing for self-pub because it has become such a prominent thing with Amazon and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But The Sword of Kaigan, I don't know why I'm sure at this point a publisher has come forward and been like, hey, we'll publish your book. But
I bet, yeah.
She's become so... I don't know what you want to say, popular, and those books have sold so well that I'm sure it's actually not financially reasonable for her to go with a publisher just because the publisher takes a cut, right?
Oh,
There's a whole process to that.
She's like, I don't need your marketing.
I've
got this.
100,000 plus copies of this book. You know what I mean? I don't need a publisher.
Right. Yeah.
By M.L. Wang. Am I saying that right? Okay. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Joe.
That's my diamond in the rough. I've only read it once, but yes, it was unexpectedly good because it's very kind of, I think, more Japanese culture based fantasy, like old traditional Japanese culture, not modern, right? So man, really cool.
Cool. Oh, that's great. And is your preferred method of reading, is it actual holding a book? Or it's audiobooks? Yeah, I'm an audiobook. Yeah.
Yep. When a new Brandon Sanderson book comes out, I read it. Only the Stormlight Archive books. His other works, I usually read the audiobook.
Okay.
But a new Stormlight Archive book, which is his like lifelong series.
Oh, okay.
So those books are of biblical proportions. They are huge. His last book was 1,250 pages.
Yeah.
So it's an effort.
That's a tome.
I'm not. Yeah, it is it's a beast. Yeah, it's a lethal weapon at that point.
Totally.
To give perspective, the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy is shorter than one of his books.
Oh yeah. Okay. For sure.
Yeah, they are tomes, but they're amazing.
Well, that's great.
So,
and that's one of the things that takes you out of feeling your anxious mind. And
sometimes. I've tried to actually get away from that a little bit, where I don't feel as reliant on that.
Okay.
So now when I go trout fishing or something, I used to listen to books while I would trout fish.
Yeah.
Now I try to resist that.
Oh.
At least on the first day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because I don't want to feel anxious without my audiobook.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was just that trip had caused me to recognize that's a problem.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I shouldn't need an audiobook in my phone to calm myself down.
Yeah.
So
I can do it on my own.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it was helpful in helping to train you into finding ways to calm your anxiousness?
Like that trip?
Yeah. Because it evolved naturally and everything else. There weren't a lot of other distractions, and you were like, okay, I realize that this is a salve for me in some ways, and so I also want to be able to.
It's reflecting back on the trip.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. During the trip, I didn't recognize it as much.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed it, but I didn't reflect on it.
Yeah.
I just used it to just get through the trip because
Cool.
it was challenging.
Yeah.
But then
I just think those pieces, that's why I'm asking. I probe a little because I think it's really helpful for other people to hear too. What are those in between sticky places that are helpful for everybody else then,
Yeah. I mean, shoot. I think one of the hardest things is when you really want to do something, but it makes you uncomfortable to do it. I really wanted to go trout fishing, but I have no idea I had no idea what I was doing.
Oh.
My dad didn't teach me how to trout fish streams.
Oh.
You might say he did. Dad, not really.
Yeah.
I had to learn all of that on my own, and then go out and go wading in water that's potentially up to your, chest,
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it was quite nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And it still is when it gets that deep. I get nervous.
Easily slip. Yeah.
I am more comfortable with it now than I was. The first time I did it, I was
Experience.
shaking.
Yeah.
But the determination to want to just catch fish.
Yeah.
And get into my own kind of outdoor hobby that
Right.
I enjoy. And yeah, I mean, the other part about it that
That's so cool.
is you kind of some streams go through a lot of private property.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin, people, and I think generally in the U.S. this is the case. People don't own the water.
No.
That's good. It's good law.
Yeah.
So if you're wading in a stream in Wisconsin and in Minnesota and I'm sure other states, if you're in the water, you're legal.
Yeah.
You can go through people's property as long as you don't walk on their property.
Right.
I think it's usually if you're not above the flood bank, then you're fine.
Right. Okay.
If the stream might be low, and
Yeah.
so you're like, okay, you can't make it. Oh, if this person walks on the rocks, they're trespassing. It's
Right.
like, okay, come on now.
Yeah. Right.
Or if it's an impassable area. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a bit nerve-wracking. I was worried about property owners getting really angry with me.
Yeah. Of course.
Oh, this is my private property. You can't. What are you doing?
Right. Sure.
And I've been fishing. I've been doing it for 6 years, and the first time somebody's actually yelled at me was last year.
Wow.
So I was expecting it, though. I told my brother that when we parked, so you can park by the bridge, and then it's, let's say, it's 33 feet from the center of the road.
Okay.
Out,
Yeah.
in both directions. So that's public property.
Gotcha.
Right? So you can park on the side of the bridge and then walk down as long as you're not going too crazy. You're not going on private property.
Right.
But I look on the other side, there's 2 no trespassing signs,
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of,
Yeah.
I'm like, we're fishing this and I'm going to do, like, it's perfectly within our legal rights. But
they're not going to be happy.
Yeah, I expect that perhaps we'll be talked to. And
Right.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
On our way back, guy was very angry and, by all means, call the DNR.
Yeah.
And if somebody is that enraged by you walking through, public property, which is the river,
Yeah.
they've talked to the DNR before.
That's funny.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know.
And we were fishing in a stream that's probably, if you were to look at top 10 trout streams in Wisconsin, this one would be on that list.
Right.
Right. So he's probably has somebody walking through his backyard every other day.
Right.
In
peak times.
And I'm just like, it was amusing to me, but I also felt bad for him.
Yeah. Right.
Because he gets that angry.
I know.
And there's people in his backyard every other day. And
I know.
Just move if you're going to,
It's true. I got to say, though, I think that would disrupt a lot of people in a different way. And I think we've talked about this before, but your military experience, I think, has groomed you to be very calm within situations that many people would be like, oh my gosh, this is really scary, or I'm upset about this. And
Sure.
it just calms you down. You just kind of think about it. And I just watch your wheels process things sometimes, or I used to anyway,
Sure, sure.
but that it doesn't faze you necessarily. It's just yep, that's what happened and this is how it goes. And
I don't mind if somebody's going to yell at me. Typically, if I've got no dog in the hunt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I think it would be more difficult for me if I saw something that was like a moral interruption.
Sure, of course.
You know what
yeah.
I mean? That probably would be something that would bring out the wrong kind of Marine Corps chase.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? Or, yeah.
But can you just in a quick second, maybe just what is it that you do if you're in a confrontational situation or something that's potentially maybe uncomfortable to somebody else? What is it that happens for you that makes you feel calm? Because I feel like that's not a response that many of us have. I get fiery.
That is a great question. Well, he wasn't right next to me in this particular circumstance.
Yeah.
That helped a lot. There was
space.
He would have had to come down, you know what I mean? So there was a certain distance there.
Yeah.
That was just it was, in my mind, it's just kind of adorable that he's losing his mind like this.
Right. It wouldn't happen if you were closer.
Yeah, whereas if he was closer to me, perhaps I would have been a little bit more, I would probably have been a little bit less. I'm not saying I was antagonistic, but, if you're yelling at somebody and they start to grin.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? I think I was almost too calm.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Where
Right.
I was just
yeah.
But he was being childish. So,
Right.
It's tough.
That's funny.
I think if somebody's really losing their temper with you, oh man, there's biblical advice for that.
Yeah.
A gentle word turns away wrath. You know what I mean?
Oh, nice.
So,
Yeah.
I'm not, I think that's a proverb, but I think you'd find advice like that's outside the Bible. But
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's great.
and
advice.
I thought about, I've definitely lost my temper in childish ways before, and
Sure, we all have.
and my wife's
Easy.
been there to be like, hey, oh man, I got a quick example of this.
Okay.
I set my Mountain Dew can on the couch because I'm a genius.
Right.
And my wife sat on the couch and spilled Mountain Dew all over the couch. And
Yeah.
I'm just enraged. What are you doing? How could you do this?
Right. Yeah.
And she's like, I'm just sitting on the couch. And I'm
Right.
like, get the couch cleaner. She's like, what couch cleaner? You get the couch cleaner. I was like, you should have it. And of course, in my complete loss of control, I was like, my mom always had a couch cleaner,
Right.
she's like, well, I'm not your mom,
Yeah.
And she calmly looks at me and goes, what even is couch cleaner? And I was like, I had nothing. And, just started laughing.
Yeah.
You know
Oh my
what I mean? 'Cause
gosh.
it just totally, I went from like
De-escalated.
100% childish anger to just right back down to polar opposite where I just was laughing. I'm like, I don't even know. I don't know what's going on. And I'm an idiot for putting the Mountain Dew on the couch. I don't know what I was thinking. It was just completely de-escalated it. So I guess part of it is experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I was in the Marine Corps, certainly I got yelled at for really, really stupid things,
Sure.
So,
right.
like, super dumb.
Yeah.
That I reflect on and, have overcome bitterness towards that stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's just like everybody's broken in their own way.
Absolutely.
And some people, when they have power, they like to yell at people.
It's true. Yeah.
So.
And I thank you for sharing that moment between you and your wife too, because I think it's so important, and it just shows a level of trust and love that you guys have too. Within that, it's really nice to know that all of us, within relationships, when you are within trusting, loving relationships, whether it's friendships or whatever it looks like, parental, whatever, that you can have ridiculous things that you say or do or whatever.
Absolutely.
And that the other person is there going, hey, what is that? What
this doesn't even make sense.
Couch cleaner.
Yeah.
I love that. So thanks for sharing that. But,
yeah, it showed growth for her too, because when I was in the Marine Corps, it was such a toxic environment.
Yeah.
It definitely put challenges on our relationship, because
of course
I'd come for being yelled at for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then come home, and that's the environment I was in all day. And I'm not saying that I carried that every day at home, but certainly there were moments where I could have handled things better.
Yeah, sure.
And so earlier in relationships, she would just kind of shut down.
Yep.
And showed growth for her, that she was just, and then also it was a light bulb moment for her too, because she's like, hey, if I just ask him why he's so angry, you know what I mean? If I just bring out the logic, it completely shuts me down, and I'm just like, it's hard to argue against that,
Yeah.
And then
ask more questions, listen more.
And that's what I did to that guy. I was kind of like, I'm sure you've talked to the DNR and you know that the law is that I can be in the water.
Yeah.
And then he was just like, that's not the law in other states. And I'm like, what does that have to do with here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he would just fall back on the old, expletive,
Sure.
you're this, you're that. And I'm just like, you have no power here, my guy.
Right. That was so magician of you, though, to say you have no power here. It was very Gandalf of you.
I did not say that, but I wish I would have said
Darn
that.
it.
Oh, my word. I know. I know situations. It's always afterwards you come up with the best lines.
I know. Yeah, totally.
Man. Oh, geez. But, my brother was like, he just didn't say anything. He was like, the law. I'll let you handle this.
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
Okay. I wanted to slip in here too that your advice for have you just turned off your computer and turned it back on has been life-changing for me and my family and friends.
People, yes.
And
Despite
it's
the
amazing.
memes, despite the memes about, I restarted it, or the Aura, where I walk up and it just starts working.
It's happened. Mm-hmm. It's happened.
Yep.
It's true. I think that it can feel you.
The computers get scared. They're like, no.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The computer dad of the library. I love it.
Don't put me in timeout. Please don't re-image me. I'll work.
Re-image me. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. And we didn't even get to all the cool 3D printing and stuff.
We definitely got off track. That's okay.
I don't think we got off track. I loved walking in the wilderness with you and you sharing so much about that part of your life, because I think it's really important for other people to hear, including myself, what it feels like and how life-changing it is, and important to listen and to be connected to other parts of our world and not just the one that we live in every day.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate that. So
get out of your element a little bit.
Yeah.
And get into the elements.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. I didn't mean to sound so snarky about that.
No,
but I totally,
it's
I
good.
was
It
like,
was good.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
we're good.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if people wanted to get a hold of you, where could they find you?
Where can they find me? Oh, man. I'm not on social media really at all. Just break one of the public computers and then I'll show up shortly later.
That's really funny.
Don't do that, please.
Don't do that.
That was a joke. We already have teens here. They do enough of it. At the library, you can ask for me at the front desk and say, I want to talk to that guy who likes Brandon Sanderson.
That's right.
You don't have to remember my name. The IT guy.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you so much, Chase. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Huge thanks to Mead Public Library, the fantastic Melissa Prentice, Josh Littner, Annalisa Finca, the radio committee, our amazing engineer John Tully, and for the title, Photo and Fabulous, theme music composed and performed by Cooper Deers.
In the Act is produced in the studios at Mead Public Library in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. More information on the web at meadpl.org.